underneath the moon tonight. Island Christmas, dance with me, dance, dance. Feel the rhythm by the sea. Oh, oh. Jingle bells on ukuleles play. Merry, merry holiday.
I get the question all the time. I want to automate my business, but I'm not really sure how to start. Or I have OBMs who come to me and they say, hey, I've automated everything, but then it gets a little too overwhelming and things just kind of stop working. When we released our N8N training about a year ago, that was one of the biggest complaints, I guess you could say, that I got, was that everyone was automating everything that they could and they were using the wrong tool for that. And because they were using the wrong tool, it didn't quite work the way it's supposed to. So today's training is all going to be about what things should you automate, what things should you not automate, and what tool is the best tool to use when you're automating different things that you're doing in your business, either for yourself or for any of your clients. So we're going to talk through all things automation, which is one of my very favorite topics. I was able to automate my entire coaching business to make it so that way I could sail the Caribbean for a year with my family, and my whole business just worked and ran. And so there's so much power in automations, but if it is done wrong, then it's going to cause actually more time and more headache to try to fix it than if you are actually doing it the right way. So make sure you stay to the end because I'm going to show you a really great tool that's going to help you through this. But we are going to start walking through what does this process really look like. So step one is when you're looking at a task or something that you're doing, you want to first look at, is this something you should even automate in the first place? I see sometimes people are automating things that should never be automated because the outcome is a little bit different every single time. So there's 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking, should I automate this process? The first one is it a repetitive task? Is this something that happens every single week? Does it happen every single day? Does it happen once a month? Does it happen every 6 months? If it happens every 6 months, it's probably something that you don't need to really automate. So it depends on the frequency. If it is a repetitive task, then yes, it's something that we want to then look at, okay, maybe we should automate this. The second thing is, does it take more than 5 minutes? If it's something that just takes like a minute or two, then that's something that really the amount of time it's going to take to build out the automations, it may not make sense. Unless it's a task that it may only take 1 or 2 minutes, but you do that task like 20 times a day. If that's the case, then yes, for sure, we want to make sure that we can automate this. And then the third thing we want to look at is it rule-based? So is there a clear, like, if this happens, do this? So if you can create if-then statements on what is going on inside this process, then it's something that you can automate. If the answer is no to that, if there's not if this happens, then that, and if this happens and then this happens, that second piece, if that changes depending on what this first answer is, then that might be something where you might need some AI assistance in decision making. And so that's going to play into part of like, what else could we start using if we need to start using decision making on this. But if it's rule based, it's very simple. If this happens, then this happens every single time. For sure, this is something we want to then automate. So let's now talk about what tools that we should use for this. So the first thing I always look at for automations is what is built into the platform that you're using already. So this could be like ClickUp automations. You know we love ClickUp here. And so I always look at first, can we automate this through ClickUp? Because when you're automating it inside the tool, it's going to have way less breakdowns and you don't have to send information from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's going to be a lot easier and work much more efficiently if we're using built-in automation. So there's things like ClickUp, like Gmail filters. It could be Asana rules. These are all things that we can look at and say, can we automate this process inside the software that whatever it is you're automating is already happening. If it's not, then we're going to start looking at what apps connect to the different softwares. So this could be like Zapier Make, or N8N. Those are the three that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about why we're going to use each one of these and give you some use cases for this. So if we're looking at Zapier, this is something that has a simple trigger. A trigger is the if. If this happens, so whenever this happens, that's going to be your trigger. And then what happens after that? So an example could be like you get an email and then that email gets put into a Google Sheet, or someone submits a form and you get a Slack notification. So you can see this is that if this happens, then this happens. So that's the kind of thing that you want to use Zapier for. When you want to use Make is a lot cheaper than Zapier, so keep that in mind, but it works a little bit differently. It's not, I would say, as user-friendly as Zapier. Zapier is pretty easy. You just connect it. You say, this is the things that I want to happen. Here's my triggers. Here's what I want to have happen. But if you are looking for something that needs like if-then branches, so let's say something gets triggered and then you have to look and say, okay, so let's say someone books a call and you want to look at like what program they're in, depending on like what coach it gets assigned to or something. And you have to branch that information based off of the first piece of information that we get. That's something that you would then want to put into Make, because it handles those like routing much easier. So if you have like different logical routing that it needs to go to, so I'm taking this information and it needs to go here and it needs to go here and it needs to go here, then that's something that you want to use Make for. So an example of this could be like if you have a multi-step client onboarding process. So if they sign a contract, it needs to then send an email and then give them a calendar invite and then give them portal access. That is something that, one, I would always look at what CRM you're using, because you might be able to create that automation there. But if you can't, this is where you could use Make, because it has multi-steps that you're going to say, okay, this happened, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. So that's what you could do inside Make. Another example is like conditional email sequences. So let's say an invoice is sent, and then if it's not paid after 7 days, it can send an email reminder. And then if it's not paid again after 7 more days, it could send another email reminder. This is something that, again, look at whatever CRM you're using, because it might be able to handle it inside that software first. But if it can't, this is something that you can then do inside Make. Now let's talk about when you to use N8N. So if you have never heard of N8N before, it is an AI agent software that you can build out a lot of things. And so in this is going to be things that have like custom API integrations, or that it needs to process data. So an example of this is the last AI agent that I built out was to analyze coaching calls. So a coach has a call and it has a Fathom recording on it. That Fathom recording automatically goes into this AI agent. The agent then analyzes that call, and there's 5 different areas that the agent is looking for on this call. Like, did they do this? Did they do this? Did they do this? And then it scores them off of like a scoring card that we've created for each one of those sections. Once it does that, then it puts all that information into a spreadsheet. So that way the client success director can see everything in that spreadsheet. And then it sends an email to the coach saying, you just got this coaching call, here's how you scored. And then it also gives, here's some recommendations of how to make that call better. Now, the process of that is the same, but the information, the input is always going to be different because every call is different. And we have to have someone analyze that data, right? So that's where you would use N8N, because we're having an AI agent analyze all that data and then give us a different output. So just by someone having a call, the coach doesn't have to do anything. The coach has the call. As soon as the call ended, within about 2 or 3 minutes, they get an email in their inbox that says, here's how you did on that coaching call. So that's an awesome automation to be able to help up-level coaching, and that's something that only can be done inside N8N. So when you're thinking through this is where it's like, if it's a simple automation where it has a if-then statement that is the same every single time and the data coming through is always going to be the same, Zapier is a great option. You can also do the same thing in Make and it's going to be a little bit cheaper. So we look at Zapier and Make to see which one is going to be cheaper or the easiest to set up. And depending on the two different platforms that you're trying to connect, then it may be just easiest to set it up into Zapier, because it is a little bit trickier to set things up inside Make if you've never done this before. So just some things to think through on that. So let's just give you a couple different ideas of what are some scenarios and what type of tool you would use for this. So any apps that have native automation, I would first go through that and look at what are all the automations you can create inside that app. So whether it be ClickUp or Go High Level or whatever software you're using that has built-in automations, look at that first. Then you can start looking at other things after that. If there is if you're trying to connect two popular apps, then Zapier was probably a great option for that, because if you want one thing to be able to talk to another and have information passed back and forth, Zapier or Make would be good for that. If there is basic if-then logic, like we've talked about, you would use Zapier or Make. If it is a multi-step workflow that has different branches, so depending on what they answer, it's going to have different things. It gets a little bit more complex. Definitely use Make for that. That's going to be able to handle a lot more. If you have any custom API integrations, meaning that it doesn't really connect with Zapier or Make and you need to make something custom, then that's when you want to start looking at N8N. If you need to have anything that writes custom code, you would use N8N. If you need unlimited operations, so this is going to happen a lot, and you let's say something is happening 500 times a day, then that's something you probably want to put in N8N, because it's going to be cheaper to do it inside N8N. If you don't have any real technical skills, I would say start with Zapier, because that's going to be the easiest one to walk through and set it up. We actually have a playbook that is inside our Ops Yacht Club that walks through Zapier and teaches you how to use it. So if you've never used Zapier before, make sure that you join us inside the Ops Yacht Club. You can go to opsyachtclub.com and sign up for our free community, and it's inside there. It will walk you through all of it. Then if you have a developer team or anything like that that wants to make things custom, like that coaching process that I talked about, that is where you would want to use N8N. So we know now the type of platforms we're going to use. I just wanted to talk real quick about what are some processes that you can automate. So that way you can start thinking through this, one for your own business, but also for your clients. So the first one is failed payments. If some payment fails, that's something that you want to make sure you have a system automated to send them reminders, to make sure it's paid, and then also to pause their service if that's a process or if that is something that you're doing. It could be also client onboarding, which we are going to be talking about tomorrow, all about client onboarding. So make sure that you come and check us out for that one. Lead qualification. And this is really good to get a lead score, to assign it to a team member, to have triggers that follow up. If you have project statuses, so when milestones are hit, you have this could be done in ClickUp or Asana or Monday, where you do certain things, and once that's done, it can move their status. It could also then send an email to the client and let them know what's going on. You can set up all those different automations. Other things that you can use automations for is social media scheduling. You can use creating reports. That's something that you can say on the 15th of every month. This is a report that I want to create. Take all this information and then send it to the client. That's a really easy way to do it. Email sequences, task creations from a form, calendar management. So the things that you don't want to automate are going to be one-off tasks, especially if it just happens once or twice. Don't take the time to automate it. If there's anything that requires judgment, so client complaints or any custom strategies, that's something that you don't want to use AI for or any automations for. If there's anything in complex decision making, so hiring, you don't want to create automations that will just go and hire somebody for you. If there's anything that's involving any sort of nuance, so this could be any crisis communications or anything that's coming in and it needs someone to look through, and you need those strategic thinking skills in order to answer, you don't want to automate that. tasks that change frequently, especially if you don't have a defined process. You have to have a process that is defined and you know it works before you automate it. So make sure that you have that. And then again, if it's a task that takes under 5 minutes, then you probably don't really need to worry about it. So if this task can be done less than 50 times a year and is under 5 minutes, it's something that I would not automate. So hopefully all of that helped. One of the things that we have, if you're still looking for like, well, I have a specific use case. Inside our custom GPTs, our CrewGPTs that we've created, we have an automation GPT. So all you have to do is say, this is the process I want to automate. It's going to tell you what is the best tool and walk you through the entire process of how to automate that. So that's something that I know we've had a lot of clients ask for. So we have now created a CrewGPT that's going to walk you through that entire process. Now, how you get access to that is by joining us inside the Ops Harbor. You can go to opsharbor.com/crew. Join us annually and you will get all 10 of our CrewGPTs. And this automation one is one of those. So you want to make sure that you get signed up. This bonus of getting these 10 CrewGPTs is only good until the end of the year. So you want to make sure that you get signed up before December 31st so you can get access to all of these 10 CrewGPTs. So again, go to opsharbor.com/crew, and we can't wait to see you as one of our newest crew members inside our community. All right, tomorrow we're going to be talking about client onboarding, and I cannot wait to do this. So make sure you check out the training for tomorrow, and we'll see you guys later.
Feel the joy come set.